Do it.
Okay, I've hit live. Please tell me if you can see this stream.
I'm going to the stream on YouTube now to see. Play.
Because, yeah, it's been a hilarious calamity of errors this morning. Oh, okay. I think we're live. What a morning. If you're just joining us, we have a bricked computer and random errors on eCam. Okay, hello, Kat. Oh my gosh. Okay, good morning. I feel like we're both
I'm,
probably a little frazzled. You good,
I'm
Ben? You
hearing the
okay?
audio twice with the delay, Marie.
Do you
Do you have
have do you have a browser open that might have the stream going? It's good on my end. Can anyone? Oh yeah,
there we
Kat.
go.
It's it's one of those mornings. Oh my word. Oh, Kat. I went to press go live on eCam and it's like unknown error. Nothing can be done. And then Ben's poor computer was bricked and it's good times.
I thought my computer was seriously donezo.
Whew. Whew. We did
Took
it.
took 3 restarts and a pram reset, but it seems to be recovered.
Let's take a deep breath. Take a
Chin.
moment. Hello. Great to see everybody. It's gonna be, yeah, I know Kat knows the deal. This is why we test, and we still tested like 30 minutes in advance, and it's been a hilarious calamity of errors. So anyway, we made it here. Here we are. Nice to see some friends here. So today's going to be very casual. We're just going to have some fun. I don't know, Ben, where you end up getting with your F1 stuff, if you're able to load it up, or if you're actually using my computer right now.
Yeah, why don't you hop us into the Mario Kart stuff and start talking about that, and I'll get my my F1 stuff set up, and then we
Cool.
can go from
Okay.
there.
Let me see if I can also. I feel like I'm doing some eCam stuff on the fly here, so this is going to be a little silly, but let's see if I can get Ben on here. Thanks for bearing with me here. Okay, cool. So let me know if you can see the screen. Oh, too funny. Okay, cool. So as you know, our live stream today is kind of racing themed. So we've got two fun use cases. We'll kind of see if we can make it to the second F1 use case. And we might even have a guest today who also has been working on her F1 space. But today, let's start with our super nerdy Mario Kart dashboard that I've been working on. So Ben and I got a Nintendo, what, couple months ago. We've been playing some Mario Kart 8, which has been pretty fun. And I have a terrible memory. And so I like to remember what combinations I've been using for the races. Very nerdy. I don't know if anyone else likes to do that with their Mario Kart or gaming, but this is what we've got so far. So I started adding all of the different characters and all of their different default speeds, acceleration, weight, handling, traction, etc. And let me just open up a couple of views here so you can kind of see the reason that we do this is because if you've played Mario Kart before, you probably know that playing at 50 cc's is a little different than 100, 150, and 200 cc's. And the different characters kind of have different advantages in each of these different engine levels. And so again, having a not so great memory, I like to remember what are the different characters that are advantageous at these different levels. So nerding out on some of these here. And all this data was brought in online. So I actually was able to copy paste a lot of this information, paste it in, and then just kind of copy pasted some of these images as well. Pretty nerdy. We've got all the different carts available, got a couple different views to show us some different visual options here. We got the tires. And again, you can kind of figure out which combinations are going to make the most sense depending on what you're trying to do. Gliders. Cool. The cups, the tracks. I had my brother-in-law help me with copy pasting some of these images in here. And races. So this is where I'm starting to pull together some of this information to say, okay, what date did I play what character, what cart, at what circuit, what race, etc. So this is just a super nerdy example of some of the ways you might want to use your data, because it's one thing to just pull all the data in, but what are we trying to do with it? And for me, I'm trying to build a selector that helps me optimize and choose which characters to choose why, depending on what races we're wanting to race. Just I'm trying not to get distracted by the comments there, but thoughts, Ben, on ways we could improve this, because I know that this has mostly been like for myself and for my own use case with Mario Kart, but there's so much we could do here in terms of building a selection engine, if you will, and making better decisions.
Yeah. So show me the calendar again. What were
Oh
you?
yeah.
Those are your tests. So you played with a certain combination on a certain date, and then
Yeah.
you can mark that as like works well or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, if this isn't templatized yet, I think this could be something that, if you have and that's kind of what I want to do eventually with the Formula One stuff, is have the shared data set that everybody can read, but then a template or a dashboard that you could create and, this plan your selection thing. Show me that part again. Scroll down.
Yeah. I mean, I started with this before I knew much about the mechanics of Mario Kart 2, and just knowing that there are certain like weight classes that lend themselves better to, 50 or 200 cc. And so I actually think it probably makes more sense to choose your engine level first, right? Like, are we going to play 200 cc? Because I would choose a different character depending
Mm-hmm.
on that based on weight. So right now I have a really simple select field for each of these that was something to help compare characters. But I feel like there's probably some fun and nerdy use cases here that could be even more practical.
I think this is great because that's one thing that I struggle with in the game, is that you pick all your stuff and then you forget, oh yeah, we're doing this Prix or whatever, where it's got a bunch of dirt tracks and you need better traction or less traction for, say, the F-Zero tracks or something, where you need a lot of drifting, um, and you forget which one you're doing first. So it'd be helpful if they had that information like up front. I don't know.
And I think one of the things I did here too is I had this total score, but I didn't realize the total is not actually the most useful metric. Like, if anything, it's kind of useless because it's entirely dependent on uh, the game. Like, right, if you're playing 200 cc and you don't want a really fast character necessarily because you're going to go flying off the edge, having this total number actually isn't that meaningful. And so I built this before I really knew and understood the mechanics of the game. But now that I'm like, okay, there's actually probably a much better way of doing this. And or maybe you want to see speed. So actually I could see some different views maybe being created for if we want to see a 200 cc best selection. Maybe we're not showing total, maybe we're showing sorting by speed or something like that. There's probably a couple different ways we could do that.
I think I think an overall recommendations dashboard would be good, that are generalized recommendations, and then there could be the individual,
Personal
these are the
preferences.
races I did this, and then you could check like this was good, this was good. Long term, it might even be possible to get a this is my favorite overall setup across all tracks, because it could weight, how many times did you say this was a favorite. So like for me, Link in that the Mercedes, the old school Mercedes, he works really well on the windy turny tracks and the fast straight tracks as well. So I've just kind of identified that setup as like the perfect balance for a lot of different races, even between 50 and 200. Whereas some of the other character setups, you end up with these perfect setups that are super good on 200, but absolutely abysmal because they're too slow in other races or something like that.
So what do you think he's ideal for?
Link,
Yeah.
I think he's the overall my favorite character.
What's his best cart?
I like that. The Show me the carts again.
The silver arrow?
Yeah. So the I feel like the problem with the setup now is that you've got ideal for, but that's kind of relative, right? So I think we need to pull out that my faves or my setups from the character data, because if we're making this a shared data set, we don't want notes and stuff to be on
To
um,
be based on the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there might be like a notes or a character notes table that we
Yeah.
join on for that one. I think it's
Um,
that one. Can you zoom in on the images? They're really hard to see.
oh, for the cart? Or
Yeah.
let's see.
Yeah.
This bad boy. It's not super easy to see, but
I can't see. It looks frozen to me. Still see you on the link page.
oh, I think it's delayed because if you're looking at
Yeah, must be.
YouTube versus Ecamm. I feel like I need a consultation with Kat after this.
Yeah.
Ecamm. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one. Now that the stream is catching up, the
Oh,
silver
yeah.
arrow. I love that cart.
Yeah. Well, okay. How can we make this then more useful and practical for the both of us? Do we need a separate drivers that's you and I? Like, do we need another small database that could kind of
Make
contain,
a
especially?
make a new page that's just, like a dashboard, my driving dashboard or whatever. And I think in that case we can make it so that in general it would be filtered to all the filters in there would be using the me filter. And that way you could share it with people, and they would immediately get their own selections.
And you want to bring in linked instances of these different, each of the different characters, or what are you envisioning the driving dashboard would look like? And I mean, you could even join in on that page with me too. Open
Yeah.
up the driving dashboard.
I think it starts with the races. You've already got
Mm-hmm.
the calendar, so I'm imagining each time I do a race, I can add an entry to that and select which what my setups were, the three things, what race it was, what class it was, and then any notes that you might have, and then maybe there's some check boxes for different ways that the driving felt or something like good control, very fast, difficult on this, race, but easy on, the other one, something like that.
Yeah, why don't you join me on the driving dashboard at
Okay.
the top of the page on the Mario Kart page. And once I don't know, I think once we flesh this out too, totally happy to make it available as a template if anybody else is
Mm-hmm.
playing Mario Kart and wants to muck around with it. Okay, cool. So we've got races in here. Do we need a database for each of us? Like anyone who's kind of wanting to take their notes.
I don't think so. I like that you use driver. I'm going to add that to the calendar so we can see the driver as well. Um, I think using the Notion person as the
Like created by.
uh, yeah, um, yeah. So let's make the driver show up in.
And if anyone has questions or you want us to, show anything or build anything, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, we're just going to be nerdy and build out our ideal driving dashboard. So we got our calendar. What else would we want to see specifically on the driving dashboard page? You making a template?
I'm looking at I'm just looking at the properties right now, seeing what else we could use.
Too fast, crazy turns.
Bronze. Yeah, I mean, we could also so right now, here's a question for you. Right now we've got the races. So this is an individual track result, but then there's also this,
Grand Prix.
you've you've got the result as bronze, but what does that refer to? That you got bronze in the Prix or that you got bronze in
Yeah,
the
good point.
race itself?
I think it was in
Because
the
we don't
Prix.
have, yeah. So do we want to do something like have a Grand Prix results, and then because you're using that same character throughout that Grand Prix, it's not just
Right.
the.
So it
So do
is
we have a?
multiple races. Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah. So I'm going to add a property called Grand Prix to
We
start.
have cups. Should that be separate from the Prix?
Relation. What do we have? Cups?
Yeah, so actually I wonder
Okay.
if the cup should link to yes, yes.
Are you seeing what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
So this is like
Related to
first, the
races.
most
Yeah.
important thing is who's driving is first, and then Grand Prix. So, I don't even know, like going back and looking at this data now, Waluigi, Landship, GLA tires, what Prix was that? Because that setup might be fine on, say, Mushroom Cup, but it might be really tricky on. And it would be nice to see like race results grouped by using the same character. Give me Waluigi with this exact setup. How do I perform on each different cup or
Yeah.
Grand Prix or whatever, right? Okay, so let's say your Waluigi Landship one was. We'll just put some fake data in there. Was Mushroom Cup, and we'll add that to the calendar. Maybe
like
you should be
Leaf Cup is
driving
the
since I'm not
hardest.
sharing my screen.
Are you in the driving dashboard?
Yeah, I'm on the calendar right now.
Okay, cool. So what
we
did you
got
do?
So we in the calendar now. I added a new field called Cup,
Yep.
and so each person, Waluigi at Landship, Marie Poulin raced the Mushroom Cup on 150cc, and then you have uh, the actual what you raced with. I guess the glider too. We're not really specifying, eh?
I think I wasn't tracking that when I first started
All right,
racing.
we can put
I
some
didn't
fake.
realize that it actually alters your settings. So
Yeah, I think what might be nice to build for the Mario Kart community is a three-part system, which is like the data set, and then some general thinking around these data sets that is shared across from everybody. And then there's this system of dashboards which allows you to track your own races and your thing over time. But then a general documentation or a guide to how these things play out, because this is just data right now.
mm-hmm.
And I think every time we play, you go and you find a blog and you're like, oh, the glider impacts this, and it's actually not. Like there's all these little nuances to how the gameplay is impacted, because you can have, I think what we've discovered is, for example, with motorbikes versus the carts, you can have almost the exact same when you hit select and you're looking at the stats. The stats can be same for like one setup to another, but the gameplay will be slightly different if it's a motorbike versus a two-wheel bike versus a cart. So you
ATV
can't just
cart.
you can't
Mm-hmm.
just pick based on the numbers, right? So
There's like way more strategy involved in your
yeah,
selections compared to old games.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering like where should notes just be a straight up notes field? Is there a notes database? It's like don't want to make it too complex for folks, but it should be
Why
practical.
not? That's fun.
Yeah, that's true. More data, more
Yeah. No,
database inception.
I think race notes might be something separate. Or you could keep them in the calendar, I guess, because it's all kind of self-contained, and then you don't have to do too many joins. And you could put the notes in a database field, or you could just write your notes in the page body itself. Like, what do you think here? If you're looking at I see you looking at Waluigi Landship right
Mm-hmm.
now. Do you want to put notes in a database field? That way it's searchable.
Yeah, that's what I was
Um,
wondering.
yeah. And I think most of the time, the notes, I would guess, are going to be somewhat short, like terrible handling, like couldn't turn or
Yeah,
whatever.
here's what I had. Too fast, crazy turns.
Yeah. A lot of my post race commentary is like, yeah, was really fast and was able to turn, but every time I got touched, I got knocked aside because I'm too light or something like that. So,
I could
you
take a
know,
note of how much you whine about getting hit by shells and stuff like that too. It could be
right.
like
Yeah.
there could be
Maybe
like
there's a
a
checkbox for bullshit, blue shell right before the finish line.
right,
Yeah.
right.
That's a favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, we should have checkbox for got fucked by Bullet Bill, got fucked by Blue Shell.
Because then we can, because you do say that it feels like they're out to get you, and this way the data could show how random
Right.
is it.
I can't just be a whiner anymore. I can actually
Exactly.
explicitly show,
I
like,
like this.
that there are some statistics that when you're racing really well, the game punishes you.
Oh no, but yeah, we can track it now.
Okay.
So
I'm
what
putting
do you
that
think?
in.
Should we have a keep the notes kind of simple, or do you actually envision a separate sort of almost like a journal or a diary, like a racing journal, as
Yeah.
nerdy as that
Okay.
is?
So I'm adding a checkbox for Blue Shell, and then I'm going to add a checkbox for
Wait,
Bullet
shouldn't it be a
Bill.
multi-select then? Because then you could actually say you could have one race that
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
tags a bunch of them.
I guess you could use tags, eh?
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
multi-select.
All right. Good point. Good point. All right. So we're going to add tags for Bullet Bill win. So that's like somebody gaining a ridiculous advantage because Bullet Bill brings them to the front of the race. And then Blue Shell at finish. What other tags could we possibly have? I wanted to have like, I guess the tags are great, but I wanted to have like a numeric thing because I want to know like how many times do we get that bloody squid thing, in one race? If it's like five,
Yeah,
6 times, because some races, you get those perfect races where you barely get hit by a shell. There's no lightning, there's no squid, and you just, that kind of
just going
stuff.
about doing your thing. Life is amazing. But
Yeah,
then I don't know. Are you not present in the game because you're like, oh no, how many times did I get hit? And you're like keeping track of that, or do you have a little
yeah,
notepad beside you where
probably.
you're logging it?
Yeah, it's I mean, the same could be said for almost all of our Notion setups. Like, how
How
much are we actually
dare you?
using this data?
I do. I use it.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So yeah, I like the tagging strategy because then at least we could group and see like, okay, when I get gold, there's no blue shell. Like that's the kind of stuff that I want to know about. Or, maybe the tags could be something like, I don't know, what would you call it when you get knocked aside a lot? Like when you're light.
Right.
So there's like certain outcomes,
Knocked
like
around. Yeah.
slippery or poor handling, like those kind of tags. Because I think that might be more effective than just writing notes. Because
Yeah.
like over the years, I had a journal and I have like a symptom tracker. So if I'm like, I have a headache today, migraine or whatever, I just write that in a field. But then I realized over the years that if you don't use tagging, then you often write something different that describes the same symptom.
Yeah.
And I eventually started switching to a tagging system so that when I have a migraine, it's like, I specifically am typing the exact kind of migraine that I'm having. You know what I mean? So I like the tagging outcomes instead of notes. Maybe notes is just very, very, very
General sort of.
specific. Like, somebody paused in the middle of the game and screwed us up or something, or Ben had to go to a fire call in the middle of it, and that kind of thing.
It almost feels like there's like game mechanic tags and then
Hmm.
driver tag, like driver notes, almost driving notes where it's like got knocked around kind of thing. That it's different than game
Hmm.
mechanics of blue shell, all that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you call, is it like an outcome or a happening or something that in the game, um, events maybe.
Events. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So events will be tags. So you get a bullet bill, you get a blue shell at finish.
And then Ben
Um,
whining.
right. Well, that's customary. So we don't need to add any specific checkbox for that. Or we can make a template and it
I
just always is checked.
I mean, I put it in events because it does feel like an all
Oh,
day
okay.
event. So I
Fair.
just thought that.
Fair.
And then we got then we got driving notes.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody's watching, post in the chat what your favorite drivers and or carts are. Sounds like people.
Someone
Joe wants
likes.
to know how many Notion nerds prefer Waluigi.
And again, it depends, right? I really like Waluigi at 150 cc, but I think at 200 cc I need a lighter
Hmm.
character like Bowser Jr. or Rosa.
Inkling Girl's my go-to at 200. I think
She's pretty
that
good.
she has that really nice balance. I like the balance there.
Now, do we need any templates for this? Like, what else would need to be in a personalized driving dashboard as well?
Hmm.
Do we need a place for like loose notes or anything, or who you're playing against?
I think the notes field is fine. Oh yeah, I guess yeah, that would be good. The driver, and then maybe there's a competitors field as well. You
Now,
want to add that?
I suppose too, they may not be in your own Notion space. So if I'm playing somebody that we don't have a shared space, should that just be a straight up text field or?
Hmm. Good call. Yeah, because you could be playing a remote. I think you just leave it blank for competitors because you probably wouldn't know who they were.
Yeah, I just mean like should the field itself be a text field,
Oh, that way
like a
I could say
property?
at Marie if it was you, and if it was a remote person, I could put their
Yeah,
gamer tag in there or something instead. Yeah, yeah, that probably makes sense.
because you want to know how many times you've beaten your friends to a pulp, right? So that you can
Right.
taunt them
Yeah,
accordingly.
yeah, yeah. I think that could be cool over time to see, like household standings, basically, where it's like races entered, races won. Long term, who's actually winning
And then at what
in the
point do we like tied in with
grand scheme.
the chore database? And then it's like, oh, well, you
Yeah,
said if I won X number of races, then I didn't have to do
yeah.
the laundry or
Can
whatever. So
can link it
yeah,
all up.
yeah, this is gonna get intense.
Hmm.
But then I guess over time, as you get more and more of those races, then you could actually do some roll ups, and then you could see what's the winningest drivers and races and stuff like that, and you could actually have
Hmm.
some fun with how you display the data. Interesting. I know one thing we were playing with the other day in the office hours was, really looking at things through these different numerical lenses. So handling versus speed. So what if I want something that has really, really high handling that's not too fast? So you've got a lot of flexibility now with Notion's grouping and subgrouping features to have some fun with the numbers. It's pretty nerdy, but pretty fun.
Hmm.
Let's turn on some of these
Okay.
properties here. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at the rest of our data. We got cups, and then we got tracks, which are related to the cups. Some beautiful images there.
Clean that up. Trophies. I think I think the leaf cup isn't that one of the hardest ones that we it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And the
So
special
you've
cup.
got. I'm looking at your. You've got a races. Is that the same one that on the driving dashboard? Oh yeah, you've linked it. Yeah. Okay. Good to know. All right. So let's add another thing to our races because
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that separating out the individual race with the cup results. So I think the races table I think you should rename cup results, and then the races one would have a I think to make it really really robust we would want three tables, right? There's like a setup table, a configuration which has the character, the cart, all the choices that you made, and then
I think
there's
that's what
a
this was meant to be originally, the races, yeah.
right. Um,
Mm.
so, but even further, like there's um, a third join table on them. So you've got the yeah. I guess what I'm trying to think of do is there's a configurations table that has the setup that you chose, and
Combo
then
maybe.
each race is related to that, and
Yeah.
each cup result is related to the four races that you have completed. So there's
Yeah.
three tables within there.
And you wouldn't need to put too much into the race itself because the
Yeah.
configuration would have all the data, and then the race is like a race date basically that is connected
Yeah.
to your configuration.
Hmm. Do you think that's too much? That we should just
Probably.
focus on the entire cup? Yeah.
I don't know. That's why it's fun
Because I
to.
want to what we can't see with this current system is we've got this bronze, gold, or whatever, but we don't have an individual place for each race, and we don't have an individual finish. And then we don't have the stars system either. Where you get 3 stars for getting first place in all 4 races. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a visual star system would be really cool too.
Yeah, yeah. Should that the stars come from the Prix though, right? The Grand Prix.
Yes,
So it's almost like there's the configuration, the races, and the Prix race, like the Grand Prix.
the race yeah.
Yeah.
I think cup results, race results, and configurations are the 3 databases that I think we should make.
Interesting.
And so this table I think could be so instead of having, so this is like the cup results database that we're looking at right now, the one that's currently called races. And I think we can move out the relations to the configurations to a separate
Why don't
table.
we leave
Does that
this
make
as the
sense?
configuration? Because I think the races can be simpler because they could pull
Okay.
the data from
Yeah.
the configuration.
Right. So we don't necessarily need a because what I like about separating it out to configs is that you you could in theory um, reuse the same configuration for a different race, right? You don't have to
Yes.
reselect Bowser Jr. Circuit Special and Cyber Slicks and the glider every single time. You just say, give me that, give me this for this, and you can match them up.
What I'm suggesting is that, yeah, races is a different database, and so we can actually now connect the configurations to the races. So let's say there's a race today. I'm just messing around while we get this hooked up.
Mm-hmm.
Configuration, and then we'd have a Prix as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of the Formula One stuff is going to be a very similar setup where you could show like race results or whatever with all that data in there, but the way that Ergast API has split things out is like, you have a result for a race, and then you have a driver, and then those two can be combined together to form a driver's race kind of thing.
So would we have a Grand Prix like this that would then also pull in the races? So races probably don't even need a calendar view per se. A table view might even
Mm-hmm.
be make a
Exactly.
little more sense, and then we can see, oh yeah, we raced 4 Grand Prix on Saturday or
Yeah.
something like that. We can
Yeah.
load in all the
So
races.
add another relation to that race today item, and that would be your that would be the relation to the the cup rather.
Um, right. I think that's the one I just called races. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Races. What's the protocol for naming a Grand Prix? Do we say like 200cc, banana cup kind of thing? Like, would we?
Yeah, that makes sense. One or the other, just always cup name and circuit or class name.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to connect these just for fun, just to see how that works. Right, and so there might be multiple Grand Prix that will link up to the races, and then we want to have the configurations for the individual races.
Mm.
Or the Prix. Probably, I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? What's easiest? Grand Prix. This is so nerdy. I have no idea if other people find this interesting, but So it's like we want fewer places to input the data, right? So the configurator is sort of, that's where everything kind of gets dumped in. We connect it to the race, and then that gets
Yeah.
rolled up to
I
the.
think your entry point is going to be through the calendar, right? So on right now you've got Grand Prix as the entry point. So you would add an item there, and you would say, so race today. I don't know what
So
you're doing
the
there.
race would be it's like a single. It's a single race that has a configuration, and it's associated with
Got it.
a Grand Prix.
Okay. So race today. Okay. And this races then needs a relation. I'm going to add this to a track. And so theoretically we could make like templates that are like, okay, I'm racing the what cup, the mushroom cup, and it would automatically have the mushroom thing
Right.
created, and we could have a template that has the 4 tracks in it that you could drag into a.
So that's the cup, and we can do roll-ups for that, right?
So that's
Or
not the
no.
cup though. That's the track.
Right. And then would we do, or should the Grand Prix have the cup, and then we can roll up the tracks? Because it depends like what you want to track.
Yes.
And from
Yeah.
where. Yeah.
Yeah. Starting from the highest order thing, which is the cup, and then putting as much data into. You can pull through the data from the child races and stuff like that. So
if you start with a CC, then you've got, that will become 4 races. So we will have to create those 4 races, right? So there's probably a template here. Whenever you add a new CC, you probably want to have like 4.
There'll be a template for each of the cups, and they have the pre-selected tracks in them. So you could create a new race, and it would have the linked database that has those 4 races pre-selected, and we could do that thing with a template where you just drag you would just drag the relations to create new items. So you'd have 4 instances of the races calendar pre-created in the cup calendar entry. Right?
We don't have a cup. We have cups, but we don't have a cup calendar.
So your Grand Prix. Okay, yeah. So go to your main screen. So I'm a little bit behind because of this delay, but Grand Prix should be called cup results, to be very clear. And races should be called race results. Cup results would have a template called, mushroom cup. And that template would have a database in it that has 4 is a linked version of the races results one that has 4 races in it. So it automatically creates 4 new race result entries with those cups, with the race relation pre-selected, and then you could just drag that into the table. You know what I mean? Like using the templated table system.
I'm not sure. So I'm making a cup results template, mushroom cup, right now. So you can check out what I'm doing there. And so...
Yep. And so create a linked database.
Mushroom cup results. Yeah.
Right. And then filter that. Add a filter. It's going to be filtered by...
You should click into the template because I think there's too much of a delay if you're looking at YouTube versus if you're in the template with me looking at it.
Got it.
So I'm inside the mushroom cup template. And I've got a race results filtered to mushroom cup.
Yeah, so whenever we create from this mushroom cup one, it's going to automatically filter that. And then above this, you could create an inline table. So you should be able to see this as I type, I think. Okay. And we can just call this races, and you could, this second tags one is going to be a relation
Wait,
to
why are you making a new races? Should we not use a
tracks.
related or a linked database?
So here you go. Mushroom cup, swamp
Because now you're
ruins.
creating a one every time we create a new one. There's going to be a new races database. Is that what?
Yeah, that's exactly what I
But
want.
then that tags database
And
is going to get unwieldy.
hmm?
This the tracks is going to get unwieldy every time you make a new. Every time you activate this template, you're making a new races database every time.
And you're going to delete that one right after, because I'm making. So let me show you why we're doing this. So let's say I'll just add 2 mushroom cup ones here, just for example's sake. And we've done this before. Oops, Mario Kart Stadium. Okay, so let's say this is our template.
So
So
Ben,
this is like
if you look at my, I
race
don't know if you can
one.
see my screen, but the water park now has like 2 relations, and so every time you do this, you're going to create a new relation. So like over time, that would get really unwieldy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do we create
Well, races should
a
just be a.
reusable?
Isn't that the same as we've got our race results? This races should probably be on the main dashboard and be used as a linked database, right?
Mm-hmm. But I want to be able to drag to pre-create like the races pre-selected in there.
But if we already
Um,
know what they are, we could actually just list them here even as straight up blocks, like
yeah, show me how that
swamp
works.
ruins or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they are. I think there'd be 4 of them, and so whenever you activate this template, you would drag the 4 into the race results to activate them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of how can we drag it in where it'll automatically pick the track, so that we don't have to manually select those each time.
Could we not use relations for that? Because if you're choosing individual races, let's see.
So the race results is a configuration and a track. So we need swamp ruins, we need all the mushroom cup races need to have a race result when we create it. So yeah, you could drag in swamp ruins in there, but you would then have to click into the track property and select swamp ruins to get the actual relation, right?
But so we already know these tracks because
Mm-hmm.
these are the 4 tracks that are associated with the mushroom cup.
Right.
And so you could actually add your races here, right in the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, you'd add them here instead of through the race results. You wouldn't even really need to.
Yeah.
Right, so whenever you're
So you
making a
just
new.
click in there and add a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the order. You can hide this. So we know these are the races that are
Yeah.
gonna.
It'd be really nice if you could make a relation that didn't create another property on the on the races, the way that it's doing that, because we've got this races tags one from that database that I created temporarily. We don't want that.
Yeah, I don't think we need that. What? How am I a black void? No. Camera probably couldn't handle it. Okay, well, I can use my backup camera. In the meantime, I'll let Ben be the pretty face of our stream.
Mm.
Please hold. Yeah, so does that make sense? We just need the track. Like, we don't need to have that much data kind of happening.
Yeah, I mean, you could just use it as a reference. So after you've raced, you could say new on the race results, and you could then just pick the configuration you're using. So we don't even need the configuration because you're using the same configuration throughout the cup. So cup results should have the configuration property on it, not race results. Does that make sense?
Sorry, I'm just futzing with my camera right now. So
Okay. I'm going to make that change.
You do you, bro.
Configuration. Assume that you're sharing this screen still. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So configurations. Create a relation. Okay. So cup results has a configuration, and then it's going to have a series of race results
You still editing the
associated with
template?
it. Yes. And get rid of that untitled one.
Please hold. I feel like everything that could have gone wrong today did, so we kind of like ticked all the boxes today.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I am pretty impressed with this. We have a special knack. I swear we work in tech.
Okay, so I don't know if I should share my screen or not so I can actually show you what I'm doing here. Are you able to share my screen via this crazy software, Marie?
You want to try it?
Yeah. Entire screen, share.
Risky. Okay, so yeah, that's huge. Are you okay with it being your entire screen? Let's try it.
Let me know when you can see my Notion.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
it, the mushroom cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking good. I'm still seeing your screen, but I guess there's a delay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're looking on YouTube, then...
Okay. That's troublesome. So, okay, so we got the mushroom cup result in the cup results template. So now we have this tracks filtered by where the cups contains mushroom cup, so we can see the 4 tracks. And then below we have the race results filtered by this template. So anytime I add a new item to this from the item, it's automatically going to pick the cup that is selected up here. So now you can see the race result has been added.
Question,
And we
Ben.
would just...
Would it be better to connect the race results to the track and then just use a roll up for the cup? Because like we don't always need to kind of manually associate the cup with each individual race. We could pull it from the roll up.
Yes, that's also possible. So we would then... so when you...
I think we could
don't
delete...
even need...
Yeah, or turn that to a roll up.
We can turn this into a roll up, and then we can say this roll up is going to be the track, and we want the cup, right? Mm-hmm. Show original. Yeah. So now we got the mushroom cup. So then we can go back to filtering where the cup contains mushroom cup. Blam. Beauty.
But then in terms of adding new races, if you add something new here, it'll disappear because there isn't a roll up yet. But that's why we might need to show the race results above.
So I think this is why we had it filtered by cup, because it's not associated with this cup result anymore. It's just associated with the cup itself. So I think that's not correct, what we just did.
No, I do actually think that's better, and I will.
This is not
fight
actually
you
the
on
cup.
This.
No, here. Let me explain, Marie. This is not a cup. This is a cup result, and I think that was why it was confusing. But this is the template. This is the instance of the cup. It's not the cup itself. That's why
we have two databases. There's a cups and a cup results.
Yes, that's exactly what we want. And so whenever I add a new thing here, this would be like Mario Kart Stadium. I can't type. And then I pick the track, and that would be Mario Kart Stadium.
Isn't it easier to just add it beside the track above?
Add it beside the track
Yeah, like
above.
show in the tracks above, have the race results showing as a column, and you would add it in there.
But that would add an additional property to the track results thing. So we're separating out the race results into a separate database because we need an additional join column to have like all of the results for a specific instance of the cup. Does that make sense?
No, I think you
Okay.
lost me.
Okay. So this is just the track data. We don't have track results in here because that will be in the race results database. See
Yeah,
here,
click.
this races.
Yep.
Yeah. So we need to have a different set of results for the race. The race, each individual race has a 1 through 15 placing, and the cup results has a 1 through 15 racing. So we can separate those concepts out into two separate databases. Otherwise, you're going to have um, no ability. Like the way that it is right now, you just have cup results. You don't have any individual race results.
I think we do have race results though, right? We have race results and cup results.
Mm-hmm.
Cup results is the Prix, basically. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not
Cup
sure.
results and race results.
Okay, well, keep building. I want to see what you're.
Okay, so cup results. This is, um,
It's the template, right? We want to make sure that the template is what.
mm-hmm. But we need to think about this cup results. So this one is missing a cup relation. Um, so the 200cc circuit on Mushroom Cup, and then we have race results. So race result is a
And the configurations probably. So it's like we would want to see who is
yeah,
driving with
that
what.
that belongs on the configuration. So this will be like I raced Waluigi Sport Bike, all of the different things. We don't need this cup relation here, and because we're using the same configuration on a different cup. So the way it's currently designed, you would have to recreate Waluigi Sport Bike as your roller and add the cup to it every single time. Whereas this one, the having the race results in a separate
Couldn't we use a
cup
roll
results
up
in a
though?
separate.
Because if cup results are related to a cup, can't we just use a roll up to show what?
Yeah, you could, but you would still have to every single time you use Luigi on a cup, you would have to select Luigi again in that race result, right? This allows you to add another next weekend. I can say, oh yeah, I used Luigi land chip again on Mushroom Cup.
Mm-hmm.
The way that you currently have it, every single time I race, I have to pick the race. You basically had everything in where's that other database that we had? The configurations database originally had, if you had the calendar view, I would have to pick the character every single time. Waluigi, kart, wheels, cup results are there now. But does that make sense? Because you're having to, by splitting out the data into a separate database, we can just use that configuration again instead of having to select all of the data every time. And we can definitely use rollups too, but I think that's a separate idea. What's the sharing on this? I don't seem to be able to delete stuff.
No access for you. You can edit.
Is it locked?
What do you want me to delete your Untitled?
Yeah, weirdly I can't delete that one.
It's not weirdly. You know
Try.
that Notion's got its issues with good old
Mm-hmm.
permissions. There you go.
Yeah, So that's an ongoing one. Yeah. So when I race, I want to know what configuration did I use and what cup was it, and we also need to know the CCs, right? So that would be select, or do we have the CCs in a separate database?
I don't think we do.
Okay, I think that's fine. This is 200cc. Then race results are going to be the individual races. So this would have cup result. Yeah, that makes sense. This is the 200cc circuit that we ran with Luigi and so on and so forth. The track, yes, we need. And then we can get, because we know that our 200cc cup result has our configuration, we can get the configuration through that. Now we know, if you use a good naming strategy for this,
That's key.
you can click through to that. Unfortunately, Notion doesn't support clicking through to properties yet, so that's kind of
I think it's coming.
yeah.
It works with
But we
URLs,
could
but not.
also, yeah. But if we get the configuration, I wonder then if we can actually do another roll up to further. No, it's only relations. So, I mean, given that this is a relation, I would expect that I should be able to also pull through another, you know what I mean, like a nested roll up. If the outcome of a roll up is a page, I should be able to also roll up through that as well. That would be so powerful. But as is, we could theoretically go over to, let's go over to our 200cc circuit race results, and I could pull through some other properties from. So let's create a series of roll-ups here. So this would be like cart, and you'd say from the configuration cart, and then that way I should be able to, maybe I'd have to use a formula, but through the,
You can roll up a formula. Yeah.
yeah. So let's look at our race results. So let's this one better. Sweet Canyon. Yeah, I don't know what the best way to name them would be,
Yeah.
with maybe the date or something. That way it's easier to make them distinct from one another. But theoretically, can we get
Name those
from the
properties.
cup result CCs? So no, we cannot get a roll up through a roll up, unfortunately.
No, roll up, roll up.
Lame.
So what are you trying to do?
But we might be able to do something like, I wanted to be able to see the cart, for example. I might be able to do this.
I wonder if we should link the configuration to the individual race and not the cups, or what is this? There's like so much data, and there's like so many different ways you could do it, but I think there's like a more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you want, I mean, you're gonna have more data in the results database, but like originally you had in the configurations, you had all that data in there. You had the character, the cart, the wheels, the glider. You could have the result. That would be, in this case, the result of the cup itself. And I guess you could simplify this by adding race results as a link, and then you'd have an entry for each race result that would have your place or whatever.
So results would be more like a roll up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that requires that every single time you add an entry to this database, like let's say you do 3 cups in one day, you're going to have to select Waluigi, Landscape, GLA tires, Cloud Glider every single time you add an entry.
No way, I would duplicate the entry.
Yeah.
Or make a template for your favorites, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I probably skew more towards doing more of a data driven
Well, it kind of depends because you have to think about when you're playing too. Like, oh, am I gonna like, what's the easiest way to kind of input the data while you're still
Hmm.
playing and kind of
Hmm.
not waste too much
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, given that there's a format in the Prix in the cups that there's always four races. You could even have a race result that's like race one, race two, race three, race four, like relations to those
yeah,
entries instead of, or you could put them all in the same relation and order them by that. Um, I I'd be fine with just having one cup results database linking to the character that you chose, and then each race result has a linked relation.
yeah. I think we'll have to kind of test the waters out a little
Hmm.
bit and kind of see what the flow. Because there might be some sacrifices to make if we're like, oh, that doesn't really. I might want to switch your screen back. That one's we're seeing your whole screen now.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mute myself because I'm gonna take a bio break.
I can I can close you out. And maybe we pull in Rani. I don't know if she's still here watching, but and Ben, I don't know what your F1 situation was or if it's like a no go today.
I
Unfortunately,
think I can show some stuff. I'd love to see. I'd love to have Randy come up and show her stuff because
yeah,
it's so cool, and it's a really cool Notion example. And mine's very much like just hacks right now, and I'd love to see like a more actual complete data set, and then I can demo a little bit of like how I'm doing the same work that Randy is doing in a different way, maybe. And I think it'd be an interesting conversation to compare notes. I'll
cool.
be back in a minute.
Yeah, Cat came for the F1. So Rani, I don't know if you're here, if you can, if you're able to get into. Oh, yay! I see you. There you are. Okay, cool. So let's add you. Hello. Can you can you hear me? Okay.
Hi. Yes, but I can't see you.
You can't see me. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Cat, I feel like we need to
Looks
chat
like
after
the Mario
this.
Kart was
Yeah,
much fun.
a very different vibe than the F1. But okay, let me
Kind of
see.
similar, actually.
There's like some elements, right, where you're like, okay, who's the driver? Who's
Yeah.
the like, what's the car? What's the company? The configurator? Okay, let's see. This is my first time doing this interview mode in Ecamm, so uh, I don't know how to let Rani see what I see, Cat. I don't know if you have any suggestions on that, but I'm gonna boot Ben out here and let's see if I can change this up a little bit. Okay, do you want to test doing a screen share of
Sure. Okay.
your stuff, and
Sure.
then we can hopefully get this.
Hope it works.
Yes. Okay, cool. And let me just
Yay.
assign you with. Oh, hang on. There,
Oh,
so we can see your face
sorry.
and we can see
My
your
bad.
screen. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Okay, cool. So I know that our pictures are kind of covering. Let me move us over here. Hopefully we're not blocking the screen. And Ben is back. Just gonna add Ben as well. Okay, cool. So Ben is in the green room. Okay, cool. So let's jump in, Rani.
Yay. Hi everyone. I'm so excited. So I'm Rani. Just I was really excited to do this because it's the three of my biggest interests these days. So databases, Notion, and Formula One. Who would have thought that they would all come in together? Before I show a bit of what I have, I just have to give two disclaimers. First, there would be some Formula One logos, and I don't want to get sued, so it's not mine, it's theirs, it's only for personal use. And I'm a bit obsessed, maybe not a bit, I'm obsessed with data. So don't get too overwhelmed. I mean, it's always about what works for you. I have a tendency to hoard so much information, but that's just me. I didn't. I'm not sure if Ben was gonna show what he did with Ergast, but I started my database before the Notion API was up, so I started using the CSV export from Ergast, not the API. So that's how I built my initial tables. I guess I'll go straight to one example. So I use it to because I always do the race prediction before the Formula One race happens. So I use the historical
Oh,
data
that's fun.
to inform my decision in the prediction. So I
Nice.
have one master database which pulls in all the tables from Ergas. I put them in one database because it made more sense. And because I had to do the relations, it was much easier to just do it one time than having to do it on seven different databases. So, here, for example, if I'm trying to figure out who would do the pole position for the race, I look at the historical data for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in this example, and I take everyone who was the first position for qualifying. Sorry, that the database for qualifying, and then I use that and all that information and use a formula to only pull the one with the first position, and then I roll that up in the Formula One circuits database. So I do that as well for podiums, number of finishers. I get the average. Or yeah, I'm a bit crazy. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. You're in good company. Kat was just asking, do you collect stats on your predictions? See how often you're right about this
Uh,
stuff.
yes, but I don't put it in this database, and I try to see if my score's improving or not.
Super
So yeah,
fun.
this is one application that I use it for. So recently, I've started using the API as well. Mm, Later, I'll show the walkthrough of my page, but I think this is more useful for people who want to start a Formula One database because this one pulls from Ergast and you can set it that it will update every week, and then you get the current standing, the points.
Cool.
And I think for most people, that's what works. For me, I like to input everything because I watch all the races, so it doesn't really apply. But I don't know if do you think I should show a bit of how I built this API to use the API to call it, or probably go
Absolutely.
straight to the walkthrough? Okay, maybe the API then. Um, So I put the steps here so it will be easy to follow. I use PyErgas because I only know how to use Python. So it's just a wrapper. And I basically just have three files. So one is the F1 standing workflow. So this is where you use the API. You call, so for the driver standing, it's basically just this function. You just call the driver standing, and then it gives you all the information, and then you bring it into Notion. So it's pretty easy. And it's the same for the constructors. So the only thing you have to do is set up the integration, get the token, the secret keys, have this script, and then put in a workflow that says, I'll run it every week. And then you leave it to do its work and magic. Um, yeah.
So cool.
So if people want this, I can put it up and they can use it as well so that they don't have to build it from scratch.
Amazing. Yeah.
I guess I go straight to my page now. So this is my Formula One page. It's loading. Let's give Notion a few minutes,
I'm now curious what's
seconds.
on your everything motorsport page.
Oh, I'll show you if you want to
I really,
see.
I'm really
Yeah, it's
curious
so
about
fun
Uh,
to see.
the backstory on how long have you been watching racing? Is this like because I mean Marie and I just started watching because of our
Races.
yeah.
I've been watching for maybe religiously watching for the past 2 years only.
Hmm.
But before, my brother is the one who actually watches, and then he keeps on
Mm.
telling me. I used to ignore him until I couldn't anymore, and now I'm
You gave in.
in it
You're like,
as
okay,
well.
now I see what.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I have one database which I call Formula One Legends, and I try to show one every month, just so that I remember a bit about their history, about the
So
history
cool.
of that legend. I also linked my knowledge hub, and I just filter it with a tag that's everything that's Formula One, so that I see. And then I also have like I pin the things that I want to go back to or my favorites. And then there's a RSS feed of a Google alert of anything that's about Formula One. And then I have a separate page which is just for the 2021 championship. And I guess this is the meat of the Formula One Notion page. I also link my calendar, which shows me when the races are, if it will show me. Uh, Oops. Yeah, so there, like when is free practice and even the support races.
And is that being pulled
And
in
then
through the API, or is that manually added? Like, what does that look like for you?
no, the for the races, I just export Google Calendar and import it to my task database. I'm sure it can be done as well through the API or a Python
Mm.
script. It's just that it's almost the same amount of work. So I just do import the CSV.
So cool.
Have you?
Um,
Can I ask a
hmm,
question? Have
sure.
you contacted or gotten in? Has anyone reached out to you from Formula One about your
Nope.
system? Because it seems like you're
I
just
don't
doing
think
this
they
for
know
your own
it.
interests. Yeah,
Yes.
like you're not sharing this publicly. It's just your own system. Yeah.
Um, I did share maybe a tidier version of this in Reddit because there was someone looking
Hmm.
for it, and I said, "Oh, I have one. Maybe it would be helpful for you." But basically, that's it. I would love to share it with other people because then it will have more use. It's just not me.
Hmm.
I have it
That's
up in Gumroad. It's free, so if you want it,
Wow.
take it, use it, have fun, get into Formula One as well.
Yeah. You should
yeah.
even do like a
It's
pay what you
it's
want or
really
something.
outstanding.
I bet people would be.
I'd be happy to contribute.
Yeah.
And or
Would
I'm
be
curious.
nice.
So
Mm,
I've just started building my dashboard as well with the API, and so some of the things
mhm.
I was planning on just querying the API, importing the latest data kind of thing. But I'm finding that Notions has some pretty substantial throttling limits on creating new records. So is that why so when your Python script runs, you're getting some kind of CSV output that's kind of formatted and then you're importing that, or are you directly importing
Yes.
data?
Pre the API, I did
Hmm.
the CSV import one by one. It seems like the limit is 2,000 rows. And then Notion would say, no, it's too much.
Hmm.
But now that I just do the updates, it's not so
Right.
bad because I already have the bulk of it inside and I just have to do it like every race. But I guess it's still better to do it through the API because then you can
Yeah.
put a waiting time and then feed the next one to Notion. But I
Yeah.
haven't got the time to do that. But yeah, it's one of the things I wanted to do. It save me time.
Yeah, I think like after I started playing with the API, and I can share a little bit about what I've been building the last week or whatever, tinkering. But I think my plan was a similar one where I would use the CSV. Actually, I imported the data set into MySQL, and I've been querying it that way so I can build a better understanding of how it all links together, and then maybe
There you go.
export from MySQL the specific data that will really well. So then I can import everything, the historical data from 1950 or whatever. There's tons of it, and that just is too much to actually use the Notion API directly. But then if you just had like a workflow on GitHub or something that queried the API, saved the results, and then like saved an index that said this is the last item that I imported, so that the next time you query the API, you can start from there and collect the new results. So every day you could query and get the race results, the qualifying results, and so on. All the stuff that's updated over time.
That's
Um,
Yeah, that's exactly what I did, but I didn't do it in the API. I had
mhm.
a Python script, and I would print out the last records, and then the next time I would run it, I would use the output of that as the input and say, "This is where you start. This was the
Right.
last record that you took in."
Yeah. So
The my
Natalie,
missing bit
Natalie.
is that. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I
Yeah,
was
the
gonna say
missing bit is
Natalie is asking what is an API. Do you want to answer that one?
I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that.
Yeah. So an API stands for Application Programming Interface. Basically it's a way of creating a protocol that two different things can communicate with each other. So what Renee and I are talking about is the Ergast API, which somebody has built a experimental system that you can say, give me all the race results for 2021, and it will return those in a certain format, and then you can parse that and import it into your stuff.
I
So
think
yeah.
my only hesitation with going 100% with the API is that at the end of the day, I still have to do the relations manually.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If I wanted to do use the roll ups,
Yeah. So
but
that's the thing that I've been
yeah,
exploring, in that you can, um, theoretically, you can set a relation as a property via the Notion API. So you could say, so the way I'm envisioning it is that, let's say you have a race result for Lewis Hamilton, you could use the driver ID. So in his case, it's just Hamilton, and you could make a
mhm,
query to the Notion API in the drivers database and say, find me the record that matches with that driver ID, and that will return a page object
an
for
ID.
Hamilton. Then you could, when you create the race result, you could actually specify that that relation is that page object, and that would save it automatically, so that you don't have to go in after the fact and select, okay, this was Hamilton's
Yeah,
result, this was Bottas, this was Verstappen. So it's possible, but again, like, given the if you were, say, do you import all the super extended data, like lap times and all that, and pit stops, and you do
yes,
all
I
that
do.
too? Yeah. Wow.
So
Yes,
Yeah.
impressive. I
So
love it.
that, I feel like she's doing it
because
the
that's
right
how I
way.
get the
Like,
fastest lap. And
right.
yeah, sorry.
With that much data, I think it makes sense to just download it, or do it in, download the data set, import it into a database locally, and build your own data sets. Cause I'm finding that the Notion API is just, you can only create one page at a time. So imagine you have
Hmm.
lap data. There's, some races have 80 laps. You got 20 as many drivers times laps or whatever. That's a lot of data. And so I'm finding, I'll show my example in a second, where I actually pulled data from
Mhm.
Ergas and directly fed it into Notion. You can only create one page per second or less. So if you imagine thousands of records every time, like, it's going to
It's
take
gonna
you
take a
all
long
day
time.
to, yeah. So I think that's the strategy, is probably manually import all the data up to a certain point, and then maybe the API could sort of just top up the data, add the small results. But probably you would need, if you wanted to automate it completely, you would need some sort of backend queuing system that would run and
Yeah,
say, like, space out the jobs so that you're not hitting the API too quickly. And what I'm finding, the thing
and
that I'm
not
running into
exceeding the
is,
rate limit.
right, I'm not even running into the rate limit thing. It's that when you write a record to a Notion database, I think what happens is
Mm-hmm.
there's some updates that happen to the database. So the next time you make a call to add another record, if those updates to the database haven't finished, it throws a conflict error. So I actually had to throttle my
Mm.
request down to less than one request per second. So 1,000, you can imagine how long 1,000 or 10,000 records would take to create a notion. If I had to limit it would 2,000 seconds for 1,000
Yes.
records or whatever. And there's no guarantee that those requests work in that case. So you might have to say, okay, this one failed, so I'll have to retry it in the back end. So, but I'm very impressed with this setup, Rene. It's so beautiful, and I so want to pay you for it and use it for next year. Because, so my question to you is the prediction system, is that only you can do, or if I get the template, can I do the predictions as well?
Um, you can do the predictions as well if you have all the tables.
Mm-hmm.
The tidier version that I did doesn't have it because it pulls from the master database that I have, which is 100,000 rows, and I didn't want to overwhelm other people who may not be that
New Notion
interested
users.
as I am.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're
How much
it
time do
like
you
if
think you spend on this total?
I don't know. um I
I
do
guess now you're
watch
in the
all the
off season,
races.
hey?
So most of the pages for the race I do while I'm watching.
Mm,
The setup maybe took like not like whole day of a week, but I was doing it after school, and then yeah, maybe a week to import everything to
hmm.
get up to date, and then the updates is fast, is easier. It's not much time, I think. It's
That's
just
cool.
the starting point because I wanted
Yeah,
all the historical information, and then getting it into Notion and making sure that the rows were not doubled. Every row got inside.
definitely have people
Yeah.
wanting the links in the chat. So if you are
Yeah, for sure.
open to sharing
Post it
anything, I'm
in the
sure people
chat.
would be really stoked.
Hmm.
Do you want to show any other
Maybe
like?
I can show
Yeah,
race page,
let's go
yeah,
for it.
just so that you have an idea of what's inside. I'll pick Azerbaijan again because that's the one that would load the
Uh,
fastest
I know there
because
were
it
some
has the
questions.
least.
There were some questions too about
Uh-huh.
your thoughts on the last week's race. Don't know if you have any thoughts or opinions on that.
uh, there were the both of them were both Max and Hamilton were deserving, but maybe the race direction wasn't the right way to go.
Yeah.
That's what I
Mm-hmm.
think. So I started by syncing the page to itself so that I can populate the tables in the bottom. Then I just click this upcoming race so that it shows in my calendar if it's the next race. And they introduced a new format called sprint qualifying. So all the math changes if it's a sprint. So if it's a sprint, I check this box and then the formulas change. If it's not checked, then it's a regular Grand Prix. I also sync it to another database that I call a world clock so that I can always check the time and I don't get confused with my time zone. I link it with my tasks database, which includes events as well. So that's why uh, the practices, the races, and the support events. I had this last race and next race because before Notion didn't have that capacity to go to
Navigate.
the previous page and the next one. Yeah. But I think now it's not needed. Then I link it to the circuit. And then this is just information that I put in as the race happens. I put the race first because sometimes if I miss the practices, this is the most important one. Then I relate the top 10, so that it computes the points. and fastest lap, driver of the day. And then for the practices, I just take the top three and so on. This one, the qualifying grid, it's empty because it's not a sprint qualifying. If it was a sprint qualifying, it will have entries there. Then I put the tire strategy as well.
Oh, wow.
And so this, yes, I'm obsessed.
It's wonderful.
And this is the main page. Um, so it shows who who were the top three in the practices. Then I also put my notes as the race goes by. This is I just type as I watch.
Links to
And
petitions from
then
Mercedes and stuff like that.
yes. And then yeah, so you see the tire
Wow.
strategy here, the points after the race, the tire strategy from Pirelli, and then I roll up the circuit, the laps, turns, and then I have my race prediction here. Before the race, it's gonna populate, so it will need a few seconds. Yeah, there.
We need to figure out how to get this in front of Formula One because I feel like
Seriously.
FIA would pay you like $1 million for this system.
And
I'm
then
legit
here's the
Seriously.
serious.
standing. I don't know how I feel. Thank you. I
It's
guess I'm
incredible.
flattered.
It's incredible.
Uh,
Yeah, see, look,
but
Nerdy
all of
Notioneer says
this
he's in love
was a
with this
clue.
data. This is ridiculous. So
And
good.
then, yeah, this is just as well filtered based on the event. So there's a roll up for the Grand Prix. So all of I watch this clip and I just say to Notion, and then it automatically gets the pictures and the details. So there, that's usually one race weekend.
And I'm curious, I mean, you
But
must
this,
have a
hmm,
template for each race too. So, like, how much of this kind of gets spun
yes,
up
I
automatically
do.
whenever you add a new race?
Um, I just fill up this records on top. It's quite long, but imagine it's across 3 days, so it's not really that time consuming, and everything else populates down. So I have no idea how many rows this is. Maybe 60, but it's just drop downs, and then yeah,
But even like the layout
I
of the
don't know why I
body,
even
you've got that ready in your template,
Mm.
right? When you make a new race.
maybe I can show the template. Maybe that's easier. Yes, I have everything in the template. So I have one template if it's a sprint qualifying and another template if it's the normal Grand Prix. So here it syncs to it, and then I fill up this rows, and then everything else is just gonna populate
That's
under.
incredible.
And
I think it's such a, yeah, as Georgia was saying, like, what a fun intersection of Notion and a hobby, and just to show you the power of it, and
yes,
even like how much gets automated, how much is manual, and just how you're using it to kind of, yeah, track this, like, what's a fun part of your life. It's so cool to see.
Mhm.
yeah, it's also really nice to actually, because before I used to watch, but I can't keep track. I used to have a journal and I just write like a one sentence of what was the best thing from the race. But now that I have it in Notion, I can easily go back. I can watch the videos related to it. And yeah, it's nice to
Mm.
have all the information consolidated in one page.
Yeah.
If I were you, I would be
It's a bit
emailing
overwhelming, I
emailing the
know.
marketing teams of all of the constructors, and I would be selling this to them because this is a treasure trove for Formula One fans and for the, as somebody said, the drivers and the crew would love those stats. Absolutely. if you even started getting into the, some of the, like whether there's a, which power units are they using, which, like, and then you could actually see over time which setups or which drive trains, whatever their switches are during the season, the more effective. And I'm sure they have a lot of that data, but this is like marketing gold, I think, as a dashboard for, this is better than the Formula1.com website in my mind.
Right.
I know. Thank you.
I love it. Well, I mean, even something like a collaborative predictions or something, like you could even gamify this or have other people contribute,
Yes.
fill out forms and kind of guess on the predictions, and like you could really have some fun with this as like a community tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So fun.
Yeah.
I'm very, very intimidated to show my stuff now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, how do you feel, Ben, now about sharing?
Well, what's the point? I'll just start.
I had
I'll
the
fork.
lead time.
I'll fork Renee's scripts and
We only learned
collaborate
about
with her
what
instead.
Formula One in July or something. Kat told us about the Netflix show, and I was like, I don't know, racing cars.
Yeah,
Like
to survive.
it was pretty skeptical, but I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty interesting. So
Yeah,
fun.
once you get in, it's hard to get out. But at first, it's like, why am I going to watch this?
Bunch
And
of
then,
cars racing. Yeah, no, it's really fascinating.
yes.
Thanks so much for
Yeah.
sharing. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, I really appreciate it,
Thank
and
you for
like,
giving me the opportunity to share it.
so
Yeah.
cool. I was so glad
Yeah.
you replied, and
And I am 100% going to be trying to get you some money for this, and I want you to become a Notion ambassador if you're not. And
yeah.
I want you to be.
Oh, I
You
would
should be
love
featured.
that.
Oh yeah, we're
Well,
gonna.
Notion would love this. I'm
Yeah.
legit. I 100% convinced that Notion would love to highlight you in their blog and share what
I
you're
will
doing
highlight
with their
you,
product.
like add you to the
Absolutely,
blog.
it's
Yeah,
really, really
this
cool.
is so cool.
Guys, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Of
no,
course.
you
Thank
deserve
you.
some
Thank you for
recognition.
picking it up. And
Yeah, no, it's inspiring.
it's,
It's super cool and like actually practical, like showing people what you can do with the data. So I think it just covers so much, and yeah, we'll definitely be like tapping Notion to highlight that. And if you can drop any links in the chat as well for anybody to either grab your Gumroad link. I hope you have like a buy me a coffee link, or that your Gumroad has like a donation button or something. And if not, you should include that, because I know lots of people would be happy to send you some cash for that. But feel free to drop those links in the chat for folks.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
got a Christmas present coming
thank
your
you for
way if you
giving
send
me
me
the
your PayPal.
chance to share.
No, thank you. You're awesome. Thanks for
It's
joining us.
really a dream come true.
Big
You
internet
guys are the best.
So cool. Yeah, put a price on that template, as Alex was
Absolutely.
saying. Yeah, let's get those Yeah, and if
I
anyone
don't
wants
know
to
how
tweet
to
about
do
it,
this.
tweet about, we'll retweet it, put a price tag on there, and we'll amplify this a little bit.
Aw, thanks, Marie. Thanks, Ben.
Amazing.
Sure.
Amazing.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, so I don't know if Ben, if you wanted to.
Thanks for
Yeah, I can.
having
I'll
me.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show. I can show a little bit about what I was tinkering with in the last couple of days. As a,
I'd love to see it.
yeah. So,
Shall I stop sharing? Then?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
close. And
So-
Ben, when yours is ready, let me
Yeah,
know.
I'm ready.
Okay, cool.
I'm ready, I think. So, fair warning, my computer was bricked right before this call, so I don't know if any of this is going to work. But, much less going on than Renee's setup here. But Kat asked something in the comments about how to deal with drivers switching teams and things like that. And so I started thinking about, I'm not importing any data yet. I just started thinking about how am I going to model this before I start actually importing the data. So I was kind of intrigued by this idea of using parent-child relationships, because if you look through at the history of the racing, you have this setup where Red Bull Racing Honda used to be Red Bull Racing, and prior to that it was called Jaguar TCS Racing. So I was thinking about doing these parent and child relationships so that we can have a formerly known and preceded by and current variation. So if I click through to Jaguar TCS here, you can see the current variation like is Red Bull Racing Honda, and then I'm going to have a dates active. So I'm envisioning in my mind this kind of, you could go to the Red Bull Racing Honda page and you could see like a timeline view with the history and stuff like that. So I'm sure that Renee's obviously thought a lot about this. But what I'm doing is separating out the teams per season. So there's a Red Bull Racing Honda that's attached to a season. And so you have 2 drivers per season and then a constructor relationship. So this will allow you to do a roll up through that to see all of the drivers through that. So you can see here that BWT Racing Point F1, Sergio Checo raced for them, as well as in last year. And then this year in 2021, he raced for Red Bull Racing Honda. So I can see that down here, if I look at Checo's record, that all the teams that he's raced for historically. So each page for a driver, I want to have that timeline of their history in the racing thing. So, you know, a lot of the stuff that Renee is showing is based on this API called the Ergast API. And you can see you can just get any. So if I said driver information and I want to know about the 2012 drivers, or 2021 drivers, I can say bad request, drivers. And so there's all my results. And if I wanted that as JSON, which is what I'm going to be using, I can see, okay, we've got Alonso, the permanent numbers, the code. And so looking at these keys here, I might consider what I want to add to my database here. So my driver's database has those same keys. But as we talked earlier, like this ability, like I can't actually import that data and select that Lewis Hamilton is on Mercedes 2021 by just importing it. I would have to manually make that association. So that's what I'm kind of trying to solve with my API situation right now. So I'll show a quick example of what I'm doing. Let me just make sure I can connect to my database. Let's see here. So I'm using Data Grip right now. I downloaded the CSV and also a SQL version. Let's see if I can select all from races. Hang on, I gotta pick F1 database, select all from races. Great, okay, so I got connected. Okay, so Marie, you still there? Just making sure. Okay,
I'm like,
awesome.
What is happening? I'm in the Matrix.
Yeah, so this will get pretty technical, but I think it's cool to show a little bit of technical stuff. So this is just, I made an API Explorer repo, and I'll share this later, but it's on my GitHub. It's a public thing, and I'm just going to be creating a bunch of examples over the next month, year, whatever, that show how to use the Notion API directly. So there's stuff from creating from templates, which isn't natively supported by the Notion API, retrieving pages, searching databases, and I've got this Formula One shared setup in here. So I'll show you my little script that I've written. So I just did, as an example, F1 circuits. So if we look in the database, there is a circuits table. So I can say select all from circuits to see all of those circuits. So you can see here, there's a circuit ref. And I think what I'm going to be using is these refs to look up content later. So again, with the drivers table, there's a driver ref. So I can look up, and these are unique to each driver. We might even use the code, which is what they use a lot in the screens or whatever. But my theory is that I could say, find all the pages in this database with the driver ref matching Hamilton, and I could get that reference to that page back, and then I could use it to assign it in, say, results table, which is, the driver ID. So instead of a 1 there, that would be the relation to Lewis Hamilton. So I think I'm going to be building my system a little bit differently than Renee's, because I'm going to be manually kind of building these relationships via scripts. And obviously she has very different ways of doing that. So we'll see if this works, because like I said, my my computer failed, but let me pull up a Notion and we'll put this over on the right. So you can see here I've got like a races table, and the way that I was going to be modeling this is, that's the races results. What else we got here? Yeah. So that's all I have so far. But yeah, in here you've got the teams and drivers associated with the current thing, the first entry, and so on and so forth, and whether they're active or not. And so we'll be able to create a timeline with that. So all of the things that are eventually going to pull in is, the constructors, drivers, teams, the races, the race results, and then there's all this other stuff like pit stops, lap times, and standings. I think I'll probably do a lot of the. I'm debating on whether to pull in the standing stuff, or do we just pull in the race results, and I could then maybe manually in Notion build the standings based on roll-ups and ordering, stuff like that. So that's interesting as well. But I'm going to run my little script here and we'll see what happens. So this script is going to here. I'll run through the script real quick and kind of describe what it does. So create circuits database, fetch circuits from the Ergast API, and then create the circuits. So what we're doing here at the top is making sure that the circuits database doesn't exist yet. And if it does, then we just return the object. And then we have some props here, which is describes the database structure. So these are your properties, and we create the database. And then I have a special little wrapper to the Ergast API here, which is in my shared folder, which builds the query that I want and makes a request to the API. And if it's one that we've made before, I'm storing the results of that locally in a temp folder with JSON here. So you can see in here, here's the JSON results to fetch all the circuits. And then basically we just loop through those circuits, and I use this library called async SEMA to create a rate limiter. So I'm only making a call every second or so. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. I run the script, creating circuits database. So somewhere on this page, we should see now. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, so if I go in here now, we're going to start seeing circuits appearing. So basically what happens here is every little dot here is a little tick on that rate limiter. So because I was running into these 409 errors with the Notion API, I'm basically having to throttle it to do one write every 2 seconds or so. So I think there's about 78 circuits or so. And yeah, so you can see the circuit ID getting pulled in. But we're not even going to use those IDs at this point, because we're going to associate them with something else. So yeah, like I said, all this stuff is open source, and you can go and play with it and change it. And yeah, so here's where I'm creating this rate limiter here to say one request every 2000 milliseconds distributed over that 2-second period. So pretty techy, but I think it's pretty cool that we can do this kind of stuff with Notion.
Nerdy Notioner was asking when you're going to be doing some tutorials on this stuff.
Yeah, so this is all going to be part of the whole API examples. I'm going to build a course that will show you how it's going to be basically API usage and how to use advanced formulas. So I'm going to go through the entire system of Notion formulas and teach you how to write that stuff. So I think using the JavaScript API is the right move, because Notion's written in JavaScript, and the formula system is like kind of it's not really JavaScript, but it's JavaScript-like. I'm not sure whether Notion has a name for their language or not, but yeah. So you can see here it's populating them. When I made the request to the circuits, I'm using Lodash's order by to order by circuit name descending, because it will, every time it every time you write an item to a Notion database, it appends it. So I'm writing them in reverse order so that they're automatically added based on the circuit name alphabetically. So let's see, do we get all of them? We got 74, so there's a couple more left to make. And done. So now you can see here this result that it gives us back is this is a bunch of objects. This is the Notion page ID where you would find it. We didn't use any icons, but you can specify an icon when you create at the create time, which is how I built the F1 circuits database and added the little track icon to it. And then we have a series of properties, which are, that's your created time and latitude and stuff. And I added a bunch of helpers in this thing called props that you just say, I want a rich text property, and that'll automatically format it in the right way when you create. So now that I got this in, I started thinking about, say, what am I going to do with this data? So obviously a race, I think, would have a relation that would be related to the F1 circuits. So, what I might do as I'm building this, let me full screen this. So let's just say that this is related to the circuits. It's like, I can't spell. We got the Australian Grand Prix 2005 race. So what I would do as I'm playing around with this and figuring out how I want to relate this, is I might say select, let's start by selecting all from races. And maybe I want where year is 2000, because I'm looking for 2005. Okay, and I want the Australian Grand Prix, right? Yeah. Okay, so maybe I do select all from races R. I'll join that on circuits. Here's 2005, and I can say select circuit race.name and circuit.name from races. Okay, so now that tells me that my circuit for that Australian Grand Prix is the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit. So I can simply say Albert Park. Now that data is accurate. And so that's how I would do it manually. And, in terms of importing the races, what I would try to do is I would have another call to the Notion API, and you can use this API, the search API, and you can query by a title, and you can query by different types. So what I might do is I might try to query by the Albert Park. So I know that the circuit is Albert Park, and then I could query that, get that circuit, and then attach that circuit relation to the race at create time. So that's how I think I would import that. So I'm not sure, that there are some obviously really slow issues with importing the data, but theoretically I could run 1,000 background jobs and just let them run all day and import all the data, and then once a day just check to see if it needs an update or not, like how many records are in the API versus how many records are in my Notion space. Okay, we know it needs an update, let's update from there and link those in. So I think there's probably a way. It's probably lengthy, and now that I've seen Renee's space, I kind of don't want to do it anymore because it's already done. But maybe I can pull her data and I can then write the API logic on top of that to make that a lot easier on myself, because it's all open source, and I can maybe work with her Python
Can
script
help
so I
you
don't.
build the relations.
Yeah. Maybe I'll need to learn more Python because I'm not very familiar. I was thinking about writing a Ruby Notion API, if there isn't one yet, a gem. But this kind of way of thinking about things, where you just take a data set and then thinking about how would I model this in SQL or model this in normal database system, this is the kind of thing that I would love to be able to do in Notion, where you could just describe what you want to see from all your databases without having to model it with a database. So, I could see c.name. I could even join on the driver, the results table here, and see the Australian Grand Prix, the name, and then the winner or whatever. So in Notion, this would take a lot more to do. Whereas if you're just working with regular databases, you can just say, give me this stuff and I want to see, the winner or whatever. But yeah, so that's about where I am right now. I just started working with this stuff, but I'm going to start putting this together, and there's going to be a README in this file that's going to tell you how to set up these examples locally. And it's also set up so that you basically would create like you can see here, I'm not going to open it because it has my private keys in it, but you can just create your own .env file, and then you can make requests to your own space once you've added that. And one of the cool things about this is I set up there's a shared thing here where it's using this thing called Yargs. And Yargs is a command line tool for specifying certain, you can specify props when you're running commands from the command line. So if I wanted to, for example, run the circuits ID script with a different Notion space, I can actually specify the Notion API token here equals, and then and override my default Notion API token. So I've got like my firefighting stuff, and I've got a bunch of different things set up, so I can switch which Notion account I'm using really quickly by either using a command line argument or changing the end file. So you can see here, this is where I'm saying, from the command line arguments, get the Notion API token, or use the Notion API token from the environment. So some of the examples that running scripts, like a Python script that calls the API and massages some data, you could put this in a Google workflow, or not a Google workflow, a GitHub workflow, and you could put your Notion API token on GitHub in a secret key, and your workflow could be running once a day or once an hour and fetching stuff from the API and updating it automatically with no interaction whatsoever. And then, you can build a layer on top of that with that's, using the data that's being fed into the API to create your own dashboards with this type of stuff. So like now that I've seen the setup, I know it's possible. And so I think, I'm going to keep playing with this as I'm just basically using Formula One was something I was interested in, and I was excited to show a bunch of API examples and write a course or a small course around this. So if you're interested in this and want to play along with me, please let me know in the chat or send me a message on Twitter. And I can start sharing some of this stuff with you. Is there any questions? I'm not really able to see what people are seeing.
Either switch it back because we can see your whole screen right now.
Right. I'll stop sharing. Caraminder unbricking the Mac. I restarted it a bunch of times and it just turned the fan on every time I restarted, and then when it finally started, it went into reset your password mode, or kind of like a safe mode, and it was asking me to unlock my hard drive. So I don't know.
Stressful.
After restarting it twice, I did the whole pram reset, which is like Command Alt P and R at the same time, and that kicked it. The next step is to reset the microcontroller, but oh man, it's such a scary thing,
especially 5 minutes before you're supposed to go live.
Yeah.
We did it though.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, we're right on the money in 2 hours. That's pretty good.
Yeah, we did pretty good. I feel like we covered a lot of different use cases and data, and really cool. So cool to see your setup, Rennie. Really, really cool. So I hope that you've dropped, either will drop the links or drop them in the chat or on Twitter. We can amplify that and just. I mean, I want to play with the data, and I feel like we should have looked at her stuff first and then gone and built our Mario Kart stuff, because I feel like we'd be like, oh yeah, okay, like circuits, and it would have made more sense.
Yeah. That's part of the fun, though.
That's true. Fumbling around through
Yeah,
motion, right?
figuring out,
Yeah.
yes,
It's
what
like
works and what doesn't.
you learn
Yeah.
by breaking it.
Most importantly, I need to figure out, like, I want to associate a driver, an F1 driver, with a Mario Kart player driver. Like, who's the
Like
like
who's
is
the Max
who's
Verstappen?
who's the Max of Mario Kart? And
Ooh.
you know what I
Let
mean?
us know
I
in the
think,
chat. I'm curious
yeah,
people's opinions on that. I feel
I
like
think we'll have
Waluigi
to.
could be Daniel Ricciardo. He's got the tall,
Yeah.
lanky sort of.
Okay.
I don't
Ah,
know.
yeah.
We'll have to take it offline.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got our predictions going. We've got our like driver
Mhm.
associations and stuff. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cup.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, both of you, for.
Yeah. Thanks again. That was so amazing. I'm
It's really
super
fun.
delighted to have seen
Thank
that.
you
And
so
that was fun.
much.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to see what you've done. It's brilliant, and more people need to see what you've done. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you guys for giving me the chance
For
to
sure.
share my template.
Of course.
So cool. So cool. Thanks everybody for coming. I hope the rest of you have a wonderful weekend, and I'm sure we'll see you on the internet. Thanks everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.
Too.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.